welcome to Lilybug's Library. My name's Linda. So this is just a mid-month update on what I've been reading, and we will get into it in just a second. I was. Have you ever had a time where you've decided on something, and then afterwards you think, that just doesn't work? Well, I did that with my hair. I last time I went to the hairdresser, I said, okay, just cut it a little shorter on the sides. Want to be able to just, put it behind my ear when it starts to bug me. Yeah, that wasn't a good idea. Turns out it just won't go anywhere I want it to now. So I have another appointment coming up in a few weeks, and it's like, okay, so it's either going to have to be really short on the sides or it's going to have to be the same length as everything else because the way it is just I probably have enough hairspray on there at this point to I'm probably the reason the ozone layer has a problem. I don't know, but anyway, so yeah, that was my mistake this past month or so. All right, so let's get into the stories. So the first one was called Enamoring Her and Amnesiac X. That's a tough thing to say. And it was by Kristen Canary. And this is part of the Fall in Love romantic comedy collection, which I don't think I've read anything else in that collection. But it was kind of a neat premise. It starts out with, what is the lady's name? Lola. And Lola had been in love with Kevin, and they had had what seemed like a great relationship. Everything seemed to be going well. She is a fashion designer, and he is a med student or on his way to being a doctor. So uh, things were fine, and then all of a sudden one day, she said something about, she didn't even say anything, I guess. She had put something on her table that talked about like a design school in New York or something. Anyway, he saw it, and I don't know whether it freaked him out or whether he was just done. But he was finding it hard to balance his studies with seeing her. And anyway, he broke up with her, and really with no explanation. So 2 years pass. She's not really over him. And she goes into the hospital where he works, not to see him, but to see her sister who just had a baby. And as she went to get her sister some water, and he says something to her. He sees her there and says something to her, and she whirls around and ends up spilling the water. So he ends up falling in the water and hits his head and ends up with amnesia. So this is all them. He's 2 years in the past now, so he doesn't even know they broke up. So this is them trying to navigate that, her trying to figure out like what she's supposed to do about this. And it brings up all the old feelings for her. So it was interesting. Like I said, it was a cool premise. It was fairly short. It was less than 200 pages, and it was cute. It was playful. The characters were engaging. I liked the insight that they both ended up with into their past decisions and why they did the things that they did. I would give it 3.5, rounded up to 4. So the next one was I just kind of stumbled across it at my local library, and it was called Anne of Manhattan, and it's a retelling of the Anne of Green Gables story, only it's a modern adaptation. So it's now Anne of Green Gables has now moved to Manhattan. She's all grown up, so it was good. It talks, you get all the feels that you would get from Anne of Green Gables because, she goes back to Green Gables. She sees Marilla and Matthew. She, visits with friends. You get all of those kind of small town warm feelings. But also when she's in Manhattan, she's there for grad school. And she ends up meeting up with Gil, who she'd had the turbulent past with when they were kids. And it's kind of been a bit of a thorn in her side ever since. And he's been in love with her forever. And so she's trying to come to terms with what he wants from her, and they end up kind of becoming friends. So I thought it was good. Anne was still feisty. The story itself was charming. I love seeing, her all grown up. What I didn't care for was the amount of spice in it. I think it would have been just as good with a closed door romance and kind of a nice transition for young women to go from Anne of Green Gables to Anne of Manhattan. And, you know, it's just my opinion, but I didn't think it needed that. So for that reason, I give it a 3.5. So on Goodreads, again, rounded up to 4. So the next one was off topic, and it was one that wonderful husband and I read in the evenings, and it was called 3 a.m. by Nick Pirogue. And so it's about Henry Binns, who has this, I don't know if you call it a disease, a disorder. I don't know what makes one and one the other. But anyway, he has something so that he sleeps 23 hours a day. He's only awake from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. And so he discovers a murder has happened, and so he only has that short window of time each day to try and solve it and figure it out. And he has to make sure that he's home in his own bed or someplace safe when 4 a.m. hits, because he's going to fall asleep no matter where he is or what's going on. So I thought that was good. He does have a cat in the story, which was his conversations with the cat. I know were supposed to be comic relief. They were lame, in my opinion, and I felt like it was just filler. So, you know, it was decent. I would give it 3 out of 5. So the next one was Love, Chai, and Other 4-Letter Words. So it's the first in the Chai Masala Club, and it's about Kieran, who she is a woman from India who is studying or was studying in the United States, and then she ends up finding a job there, I guess, and living there. So she has this wonderful group of friends who really come alongside each other and spend a lot of time together. And I mean, all that was really nice. And she ends up meeting Nash, who is from Texas. And she really starts to have feelings for him and him for her, but he's not Indian. He's, I assume, white, but I'm not really sure. I guess they don't really tell us whether he is or not. But anyway, he's not Indian. That's all we know. And so that's a problem because her parents won't accept him if he's not. And it was a great multicultural story, had beautiful friendships, good connections. What I didn't like about it was the way that her parents treated her when they found out about it. I'm not from that culture, so I can't really speak to that. But, and I don't know, maybe it was like maybe it's an over-the-top dramatization of that. Maybe most parents wouldn't be like that. I don't know. But I do know they were quite nasty to her, and more so than I thought she deserved. So in that way, I didn't care for that. It did have a great ending, though. And, you know, I love my happy ever afters. So it, you know, it wrapped it up well. But for that reason, I give it 3 out of 5. So as you can see, it's been an interesting month for romance. So the next one was Digging Up Love with the Sheriff. So this one's by Evie Sterling, and apparently this is book 2 in some set, but they're all standalones. So with this one, there's a new sheriff in town, and Constance is the woman who's in charge of the museum in the town. And she ends up going into the museum one day and finding that some bones have disappeared, and she contacts the sheriff, who is new and I think originally from Chicago, maybe. But he kind of just sloughs it off, like, you know, it's bones, it's not a murder, it's not, you know, anything like that. So it's like he's very blasé about it, and she's not impressed. And so they end up, you know, she ends up inserting herself in his investigation to help him find the person who did this and what the reason was. And so they start to be attracted to each other. So the story was just okay. The female main character, Constance, I know she's supposed to be in her 20s. She didn't read that way. To me, she read like some woman that was in her 60s. And just, that's really all I can say about it. Like it didn't seem to work. And when he's hitting on her and she's smiling and whatever, and I'm thinking, ooh, like this, because it just seems like she's so much older than him, and yet she's not. So for that reason, I just didn't think it was a good fit. So again, 3 out of 5. So the next one is called, I read a lot in the last 2 weeks. So the next one's called Float Plan, and it's #1 of the Beck sisters. So this one was really good. It was about Anna, and it's got some, like there's trigger warnings in it, or trigger warnings for it, I guess. One would be suicide, and am I allowed to say that on YouTube? I don't know. So many things you can't say on YouTube these days. Anyway, I did, and the other one would be just the loss of a limb and the respect that they give those things. So it's about Anna, who had lost her. I don't think it was her fiance, just her boyfriend. I mean, not that that's any better, but she lost her boyfriend when he took his own life. Again, I'm trying to tiptoe around this. And then she decides to take his boat. And this is after, I think he's been gone like 2 years at this point, but she's just having a really hard time getting past it. So she takes his boat and decides she's going to go sailing. I'm not sure, I can't remember where, but they had this long trip planned to sail this boat. And she decides to go alone. Not really a good idea. I mean, she's no sailor, and she doesn't totally know what she's doing, and she's doing it more out of grief than anything. So anyway, she gets started. She realizes she doesn't know what she's doing, and she stops at one area and manages to find this person who agrees to help her and sail with her and be her crew. And so he's a gentleman who has a missing leg, which I think came from, I believe, an accident. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But he's an amazing sailor, and so he, kind of teaches her and takes over parts of it, and they're on this long journey, so they are getting to know each other as well. Anyway, I thought it was really well done. Like I said, really respectful. I enjoyed the friendship romance between the characters. And they both showed a lot of growth through it, which I really like in characters, especially with a lot of difficult things that they had to overcome. So enjoyed that one. That one was a 5 out of 5. And the next one was The Friend Zone. So this one was by Abby Jimenez. And I love her books. I always have. Anything that I've read of hers has been, 5 stars. This one wasn't it for me, but it does have its good parts. It's about Kristen Peterson, and she is dating a man named Tyler, who is away on deployment, and he's supposed to move in with her when he comes home. She loves him in some ways, but in other ways she hasn't seen him and spent a lot of time with him throughout all of this. So she ends up meeting this carpenter named, actually, I'm not sure if he's totally a carpenter or if he just knows how to do carpentry, but no, that's right, he's a firefighter, but he does know how to do carpentry. So she ends up hiring him to help her build some things for her business. And in the process, she starts to fall for him, even though she doesn't really want to. He starts to fall for her. And she has a lot of problems with her periods, and she's going to get a hysterectomy. She can't deal with it anymore. I assume it's something like endometriosis or something, but she's getting ready to have that done. So she's not going to be able to have children. He doesn't know any of this because she's not being honest with him. And then it goes from there. So I'm not going to tell you the whole story. I don't want to ruin it. But I have to say, I didn't care for her at all. She could be funny at times, but I thought she really strung along Josh through the whole thing, continued to lie to him, making him feel like it was a problem with him when Really, it was, you know, a problem with the way she felt about herself. And and then just the way that, you know, the way she was with him while she still had a boyfriend, and you know, just it seemed disrespectful to everybody. And then the way that it ended, I didn't care for either, because it didn't seem the least bit authentic, or respectful to the reader, and you know, people who may have had some of the same problems that she had had. So, all that being said, I do still love her writing style. I do still love her cinnamon roll heroes. But this book, I thought she kind of dropped the ball on. So, for that reason, it is a 3 out of 5 for me. So, the last one is called The Vet Upstairs. And this one I was really excited to read because it takes place in Istanbul, which I thought was interesting. And I don't think I have talked to you about this book, but if I have in another video, then you can just ignore this part. So this was about Celia, who is on a short-term work assignment, and she ends up getting this cozy apartment, and she finds this little cat there who starts following her around and then trying to get into her apartment, and you know, really making a pest of itself to be around her and to be loved. So she ends up taking him in, and then she finds that the veterinarian that she's going to take the cat to is actually the guy who lives upstairs. And so he has a really kind heart, and they start, you know, kind of connecting. Now, it was a novella, and I normally don't like novellas because I find they're not really complete and they feel rushed, and I don't feel like I can connect with the characters in 100 pages or so. But I really liked this one, and I really felt that it was well written. The characters were very cute and endearing together, and I gave that one a 5 out of 5, which, again, didn't think I'd ever do for a novella, but that was a good one. So that's what I've read so far this month. Still have a few that I'm working on. So right now I'm reading the Morwenna Mutton Mysteries. I'm reading the next in the series, which comes out, I think it's quite a while. I feel like it's maybe January, could be December, I'm not sure. I'll give you all the details when I'm finished it and do a review, but it's called The Cream Tea Killer, and so far I'm enjoying it. What I'm watching, Wonderful Husband, I love this time of year for baking shows. We're watching all the holiday baking championships and things like that. Discovered that our cat really likes trail cam videos. So sometimes in the afternoon, he'll sit on my lap and I'll put on a trail cam video for him, and he seems to really enjoy it. He just sits there and watches. Um, I've been listening to a podcast called Taboo Questions with Pastor Mike Novotny, I think his name is. That's been interesting. Thinking about my pen pals, because right now in Canada we have a postal strike on. So there's nothing coming in and nothing going out. So, you know, communicating with them, and thinking about, you know, certain Christmas gifts you're trying to order and things, and it's like, it's going to be a bit of a mess, but you do what you got to do. Happy about, I'm happy about the fall, that it lasted, I think, a fairly long time for us before it started to get cold. Now, it's, you know, it is feeling wintry now most of the days, but I'm not as unhappy about it because fall was quite long and very nice. So I'm making my peace with that. And then I've been looking at holiday recipes and kind of trying to decide what we're going to do for Christmas dinner and things like that. And struggling with, I added that one just because I thought, you know, you talk about what's happy and what's, you know, you're celebrating and things. So, you know, there's two sides to everything, right? As for what I'm struggling with, the big thing lately has been fatigue. By the, you know, even before bedtime, it's like I'm waking up just as tired as when I went to bed. And, you know, that part's hard, and then more pain than usual lately. So that kind of wears you out too. I know it's mostly just the fibromyalgia, but Yeah, makes for a long day sometimes. So that is the way that my couple of weeks have went. So I hope, whatever you're doing, I know we're getting closer to Thanksgiving in America. So if you're getting ready for that, good luck with all of that. Hope it goes well. And for everyone else, hope you just have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.